Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley in Washington, D.C. Keep up with everything on Tarpley.net. And, of course, Webster G. Tarpley on Twitter will be increasing the frequency of those now in the light of this new financial crisis. We just had Moody's ratings agency put out a negative opinion on the U.S. Government solvency. And, of course, this has been done by S&P a couple of weeks ago. We've had Fitch attacking various countries in Europe. These three institutions, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch, these are criminal enterprises. They have to be shut down. And indeed, on the National Public Radio Diane Rehm show this morning, there was a report that the guy who was running the discussion said that they'd been getting lots and lots of emails saying, why isn't Moody's in jail? How do we have them judging the United States government when they should be trembling in the dock for their indictments and their crimes in the crash of 2007, 2008, when these wonderful, august ratings agencies were giving AAA ratings to the worst derivatives, the worst collateralized debt obligations, until 3 seconds before they completely blew up and became insolvent. Go back to the Kennedy administration. There was, of course, this moment when Roger Blau of U.S. Steel, violating an agreement that he had made with the unions and also with the Kennedy administration, Roger Blau said, I'm going to raise my steel prices in a radical way. And he was immediately followed by all the other steel companies. And this was, of course, a Wall Street challenge to Kennedy. It was the desire of Wall Street to break Kennedy, to force him to obey, right, to seize the initiative from him, to expose him, to discredit him, to weaken him, and so forth. And naturally, the merest claw tip of inherent federal power is often sufficient to put these people onto the defensive. And what Kennedy did was he essentially let it be known, now look, what do we have here? We had United States Steel and then all these others, right, Republican, Jones and Laughlin and all the rest of them existing still at the time. They've all raised their prices in lockstep. That's collusion. There may be a violation of Sherman antitrust and Clayton antitrust. There may be a conspiracy in restraint of trade. And he went to Bobby Kennedy at the Department of Justice, the Attorney General. Investigate the steel cartel and how they're rigging prices and how they're looting the consumers. And as soon as this word got out, the entire Wall Street crew that had been running and looting and destroying these steel companies, unfortunately, they got cold feet. They immediately began to take back their price increases. A powerful activist president has a series of tools that could put Standard & Poor's, Moody, and Fitch onto the defensive. I smell a criminal conspiracy here. I see powerful reactionary politicians, foreign financial interests working with these rating agencies. I think they've got to be investigated. I think this is a scandal. And the United States government cannot tremble at the words of Moody's. It should be Moody's again, trembling in the dock as they hear how many years they're going to spend in the big house as a result of what they've been doing. And I think this awareness is actually growing. Now, in terms of the situation here with the U.S. debt ceiling, we're now drifting towards the precipice, and nobody knows how fast this is going to come. This morning we had Alan Greenspan, Bubbles Greenspan, on television saying he is so frightened about the debt ceiling that he wants to go back to the Clinton tax rates. In other words, he wants to roll back the Bush tax cuts for the rich, and of course, Greenspan also wants to raise tax rates on working families. But he wants to raise taxes, and he says, oh, gosh, if a guy like me is willing to raise taxes, you know how bad it really is. Well, there is something to this. We've got the U.S. drifting into default, national bankruptcy, and a world panic. And you can see this in the Wall Street Journal, right? If you look at their what they call the editorial page, as of Thursday, June 2nd, editorial, The Debt Limit Dance. The Wall Street Journal says there is zero chance that the United States won't pay its bills, and one reason investors are calm is that they understand that even a temporary technical default would not affect their chances of being repaid. The real issue is spending cuts, wiping out the New Deal, destroying the entitlements, austerity, sacrifice, genocide for the working people of the United States, is the subtext of the Wall Street Journal, as usual. But notice their complacency. You're drifting towards the abyss. You're getting close to the edge of the abyss. You're peering into the abyss. And the Wall Street Journal says, it won't happen, and even if it does happen, it doesn't matter. This is pure insanity. A default by the United States will immediately devalue the central bank reserves of the world. It will then lead to a liquidity contraction, and perhaps the countermeasures against the liquidity contraction could then pitch the world into hyperinflation or indeed a deflationary crash. The choice between them depends on the political responses. Here's another one, op-ed on the Wall Street Journal page here of Thursday, June 2nd. In praise of debt limit chicken by John B. Taylor, of course, a reactionary from that nest of reactionaries at the Hoover Institution. And he says his previous outing is a book called Getting Off Track, How Government Actions and Interventions Caused, Prolonged, and Worsened the Financial Crisis. That's from the Hoover Institution Press in 2009. So you get the idea. This is a free marketeer, be he an Austrian or a Chicago boy, I don't know. But there's a group of 150 economists led by George Shultz. In other words, this is now the George Shultz faction of the U.S. ruling class, plus Mundell, the infamous Monte dei Paschi di Siena, Mundell. And they say, increasing the debt ceiling without significant spending cuts and budget reforms will bring further harm to private sector job growth in America. So this is the, we would call it certainly reactionary faction of the ruling class. Now there's another group, there's the Koch group even beyond that, which is even more extreme. But this is already pretty far right. These are extreme reactionaries by any normal standard. So they're essentially saying, don't worry about this. Use the opportunity. This is what Brüning did in Germany between 1930 and 1932, basically saying you have a depression, use the depression to do what you wanted to do anyway, destroy the New Deal, destroy Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, unemployment benefits, WIC, and Head Start, and the rest of it, right? Such scraps of the social safety net as remain. Now, this indicates a dangerously unrealistic mood in the ruling elite. Now, 200 reactionaries from the Republican House caucus, it was the whole House membership of the Republicans, went to meet Obama at the White House. And at centerpiece of this, we have Congressman Ryan, the reactionary from Wisconsin, who has proposed genocidal budget cuts. He's an advocate of genocide, openly preached against the American people by wiping out Medicare. And you can measure the results of that in mega deaths, in millions of people who will lose their lives based on what Ryan wants. And of course, he wants to have tax cuts for the rich included in this. So Ryan whines that Obama demagogues his plan. Well, no, your plan is a recipe for genocide. Now, of course, Obama has his own recipe for genocide, which is more subtle, more camouflaged, more deceptive. So this is now what you have. The Crapo Commission is out of the picture because Senator Coburn, being involved in the Ensign scandal, has sort of dropped out of view. He doesn't want any publicity. Right now it's the Biden group, and they're talking about $1 trillion in budget cuts. This is, of course, genocide against the American people. Either way. We'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.